Welcome back to another episode of the Becoming Relentless podcast. I know that this is your favorite podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. I am your host, Eleanor McCabe, and I'm joined by my lovely co-hosts,
Danielle Kusenberger, also Team Haley coach.
And Cecily Wesh, Team Haley coach.
Today we have an extra special one. They're all special, but this one is going to be super informative for us all, especially myself, because we're going to talk about intuitive eating. And intuitive eating is not something that I have really done.
But I have.
And so have I.
Yeah. So we're here to help y'all out. I know that I personally started intuitive eating back in July after my show. And it was because my relationship with food was not the best. And I wanted to eat more things that aren't on a meal plan, like pastries and whatnot. But I didn't want to necessarily have free meals because I knew at free meals, I'd probably overeat and binge eat. And I wanted to, the end goal was to get my relationship with food good. So having an intuitive eating plan, like every 2 days a week, would help me have those days where I got to eat what I wanted, space them out, but also not eat like an asshole. So have real food, like actual meals, and have like a blueberry muffin, things like that on that day.
Yeah. How was it for you, like with that being so close to post-show?
It was definitely hard. So I will say, anyone who's starting to eat post-show, like, dude, it's going to be hard. First of all, the body image is hard. In reverse face, body image is always hard because you're watching yourself gain weight. Where does the weight usually go? First and foremost is your stomach, only because it hasn't had time to distribute throughout the body. Usually it's like it's not bloating, but you're not as lean as you were. So it seems like you're bloated.
That distribution is in a weird spot when like initially post-show.
Yeah. So that is a struggle. But I understood during this time, I was like, it's going to take me some time for my body to distribute how I know it will. But the biggest part is being so food focused, because post-show, you're just food focused. So what I do to prepare myself is I would plan my day out of where I'm going to eat and what I'm going to get. That way I can't deviate from my own plan. So like first starting out, I would... Yeah, in my notes, I'd make it's like a meal plan, but with what I am going to eat. So I am prepared, because if some people, free balling is good for them. For me, free balling was not the best, especially right after a show. I will say, give yourself 5-8 weeks, and free balling is probably gonna be like okay for you, because your appetite's not as high. You're not craving just pure post-show goodies, cookies, candy, all of that. You're craving actual food to feel good. You want to look good. Your fat distribution is in a better space. So now you're like, okay, I'm feeling my body more so to perform well for me, not just because my mindset's focused on food.
Yeah. I think that the inclusion of intuitive eating days post-show it can be really helpful, but I think that it also depends on the athlete.
I agree.
And where they are in their journey. I think for someone that is initially coming out of a reverse, probably not generally the best plan of attack, but for someone that's more of a seasoned competitor, adding those in. And I think that just communication, like with the coach and what you feel like is going to work best, is going to help push you further in that way. And I think that something that's really smart that you did when you were doing that post-show intuitive eating is you communicated not only with Justin, but you communicated with me on what your plan for the day was, so that you had someone there to kind of like help hold you accountable. And you not spending the day alone, I think, is big. On your intuitive eating days is something that's really big, especially when you're first starting out post-show. Because when you're alone, you're more apt to probably fall into temptation. So if you have someone there with you who also realizes and recognizes your goals and is willing to kind of like help guide you through those days, that's going to be
So when I first
helpful.
started, I called Cess. I was in the car and I was like having a bad day with food. I knew it wasn't that I was necessarily like overeating that day at all, but it was like I knew that where my mindset was, like it was going to be, I was just in a bad place. Relationships. I called Cess and I was like, dude, I was crying. I was like, I don't know what to do. So then we talked about it. So communication, like she said, is really big. But I also, like, I would have her come out to eat with me. And so, like she said, having someone there. And then you can also, I would show her like my plan for what I'm going to eat. And then you can ask them, like ask your friend or whoever you're with, or even send your coach if we're doing this, like send your coach what you plan to eat and like say like, is this okay? I know it may be like let me know if it's overboard, or let me know if it's a good plan.
It's kind of like, because I think that what people struggle the most with at first with intuitive eating is kind of finding those boundaries and finding what, I think that they associate a lot of guilt with food when they first start. And so it's like they feel like everything they do is going overboard. And so some intuitive eating days they restrict, and then on the next intuitive eating day, they go overboard. So kind of setting parameters and guidelines and boundaries for yourself and communicating with your coach about what those boundaries look like is going to set you up for a lot more success. I think that also, prioritizing like what you know about nutrition in those intuitive eating days is important. Like obviously you still want to like add in things that you want and you enjoy and you want to have some fun. That's great. But also, like with each meal, try to have like, some protein, moderate fat, moderate carbs, like, like keep it smart, keep it mindful.
I will say when I first came out, like she said, it's hard to understand what's overboard and what's not because everything, so it's okay to like have muffins and whatnot, and it not like say you have a meal in the morning and it's just a muffin, that's really not a meal, but it's okay to just it's not good to only have carbs and fats throughout the day.
Yeah.
Like and hit your calories. It's good, like Sess is saying, to have protein as well throughout the day because calories at the end of the day aren't the only thing that matters. If you want to feel good the day after and during the day, then you have to have some form like protein to get you feeling good throughout your muscles.
And that's also going to like help with your satiation. Is like by making sure that you are still prioritizing protein in some aspect, that's going to help with your hunger cues as well, which is going to help you from going completely overboard too.
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of people struggle, including myself, is hearing like intuitive eating days. If I don't have parameters set for myself, then it almost feels like I'm free to do whatever. Like I have a lot of nutrition knowledge and I know that I need to incorporate protein and whatever else. But if I were to just be given like a no structured eat whatever you want day, that would be really hard for me because it'd be like, okay, well, I haven't had mac and cheese in so long, so I want that. And I haven't had a muffin in a while, so I want that. And like a bagel with peanut butter sounds good. It's almost like the things that I like don't eat on a regular basis become
so
like amazing. I'm almost like, I have to eat it now today because it's my intuitive eating day.
Yes.
Instead of, right.
And I think people live in constant fear that, this is like, who knows if I'm going to have another one. So I think that as a coach, I think it's also, I personally feel important to communicate what your plans are with intuitive eating days. And I'm just going to add in untracked meals. I know that we aren't really talking about that. But like I like to add in communication around those things with my athletes. Like we're probably going to have this in for X amount of weeks. And I think that that helps ease their mind and like not trying to shove everything in
to like
one day because they're scared that it's going to get taken away.
I agree. And I think one thing too, and communicate this with your coach, because as a coach now I know when I give intuitive days to tell them, hey, we can have free meals on this day or not. Because when I was going through it, I was like, well, does this mean I get a free meal and my intuitive eating day on the same day, or do I not? Like, it's just like you don't know what is too much.
Yeah.
So just always asking questions.
Yeah.
So I have an athlete right now that I'm working with, and they realized that tracking food was just a little bit triggering for them with like past experiences that they've had. And their goal is ultimately like eventually we'll get to a weight loss, but we're doing recomp right now.
Yeah.
And they communicated with me, hey, tracking my food is not working for me. And so I was like, okay, let's implement intuitive eating. And what I did was kind of what you guys are saying, set goals with them. Hey, I'd like you to still prioritize protein in like 3 out of your 4 meals for the day. Just giving kind of tracks that they can follow, but not necessarily saying you must do X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
And they have done so much. Like I think the mental stress of the tracking was lifted because I've seen so much progress with them in this intuitive eating. And what we found is that they naturally, over the course of the past month, actually eat less. Like when I do ask them to like jot down like what they've been eating so we can just get an estimate for data, it's less than what they were feeling like they had to eat before.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like they're more in tune with their body. And so I've been a really big fan of being able to implement that with my athletes. It's so funny because I'm able to do that with my athletes, but then with myself, I still struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something that like intuitive eating, like that I've done with myself is like, I feel like it has taught me a lot about how to listen to my body and what my body actually needs. But I think that comes within time of like, when you first start, it's going to be hard. There's going to be hiccups. It's going to take a few weeks for you to like understand what your body needs and when you need it and what you should be doing. But I think that over time you learn, and it does teach you a lot about yourself. I think that there's a lot of really great tools and a lot of power in intuitive eating.
I will say, when I first came out, because Seth and I have different appetites, very vastly different. And I'm always like ready to eat. I'm usually always hungry. My appetite's usually always high. So first getting out, like it was hard for me to start into intuitive eating because I was like hungrier than like people I was going out to eat with. And I thought something was wrong with me or I was overeating. But in reality, like I really wasn't, because everyone's body's just different. So just understanding what your body needs, as like Seth was saying, like understanding what your body needs is going to be very beneficial.
How did you learn to listen to your body? What were some of the cues that you've picked up, or like what can people take away if they're interested in implementing intuitive eating, but they're not sure what even to look for? Because I know I've tracked for so long that I don't look at food the same. I look at it as its macronutrients and its nutritional value.
Yeah. So I think that like the biggest thing is like everyone's hunger is so different. And so like for me, like my hunger cues are a little bit distorted at the moment, especially coming off from being sick. But I think that the biggest takeaway and like how you want to learn what your body needs is in the morning, try to start off with something that you would generally eat, like, or around your training. Keep that steady. I think that this is like the easiest way to ease into it, is like around training, try to keep your food around the same, and then have those other meals that you would have throughout the day be what you feel like your body needs in that moment, like based off of your hunger cues. I think that, and then you can kind of switch things from there. Like kind of playing like a 70-30 game is what I think initially helped me be able to understand what my body needs in the moment.
It's almost like easing into it. Like you said,
exactly.
You're not going full bore K intuitive eat everything, but
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
That's a really good approach.
Have you guys heard of the rule of threes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe Kelly spoke on it, and it has to do with intuitive eating as well, where when you build a plate for yourself or you build a meal, you're doing protein, fats, and carbs, like the three macronutrients, making sure that all of those are present. And that I think would be also a good way to start intuitive eating, but also understanding like it's not a free for all, like you still have goals, you're still trying to fuel your body appropriately.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
Those are both really good
cool.
tips.
Yeah.
But those are I don't have any other tips. Stay on your water.
Yeah.
Water,
definitely
yeah,
stay on your water.
But even if you're not intuitive eating, like that's a given.
Yeah.
Stay on it.
And also I think back to like the digestion podcast, like just don't like listen to your body when you're eating a meal. Just because food is in front of you doesn't mean that you have to finish it, especially on those intuitive eating days. Like you don't even have to go back and finish it. Like literally, like just because a plate of food is in front of you does not mean you have to eat the whole thing. And I was always taught growing up, like you finish what's on your plate.
Yeah.
But that is something that I kind of had to work back and like unlearn. And in bodybuilding too, like when I did have those intuitive eating days, because it's always like you have to finish everything that's on the plan. But on those intuitive eating days, you do not have to finish everything. Like you can leave stuff on your plate. It's going to be like, it's fine. And food is always going to be there.
Yeah. And if it's not like tasty, like it actually doesn't taste good. That's another thing. Like don't make yourself eat it. You can get something better.
Yeah. Yeah. Like don't like if you don't like it, don't eat it. I'm a big proponent of that. I will take a bite of something. If I don't like it, I'm like, okay, well, I'll give it to someone else.
Yeah, I'm
It's
not
usually
gonna eat
giving
that.
it to me because
Yeah.
I think everything is good. I was like, oh, this tastes amazing. You're like,
That's
this is
hilarious.
trash.
That's so funny that you say that because my parents were the same way. They raised us like you finish your plate.
Yeah.
And I've had to unlearn that too, where it's like, well, if there's stuff left in my Tupperware on my plate, I don't have to finish it if I'm full or if it doesn't taste good.
Yeah.
So that is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these are some really good tips, all of them.
I hope that you guys can utilize them and they will help you.
If you have any questions or need help, honestly, we're always here for you.
Yeah, feel free to reach out to any of us. We would love to help.
Yes.
And we appreciate y'all for listening in. Drop any of your questions or comments below, and we'll catch you in the next one.
See ya.
Have a great day. I hope y'all really enjoyed the podcast today, leaving it feeling more relentless than ever. But we have a few things that we would love to ask of you, so I'm going to give this over to Noah.
Thank you guys so much for listening. If you could, I know that this is your new favorite podcast. Please leave a 5-star rating and review. Leave any comments and questions below. And make sure that you're sharing across social media so that all of your friends get to listen to the greatest podcast on earth.
And if you have any questions about any topics that we talk about or anything at all, fitness, competing related, anything, we'll hit you back up, Instagram or in the podcast under, if the comment box is there, then we will definitely answer your questions and help you out as best as we can.
Absolutely. So leave those 5-star reviews. Let us know. And we'll talk to y'all again soon.
Have a relentless day.
Bye.